Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Dev Sarvakarshu Sarvada. First of all, I offer my obeisance to the Divine in you, with whose grace we are all here right now, this moment, in this virtual world. Narayani Namostute. The first question is by Brooke. It's one of the most voted questions. Does it please Ma more to correctly sing or chant stotrams in the original language, that is Sanskrit, while doing my best to remember the translation? Or should I sing in my own language? I want to understand every word while singing her glories. I think it's important to sing in your own language, or at least if you're using Sanskrit, then know the meaning of what you are singing or chanting. I read a story once, and I think I shared it in one of my earlier discourses as well. It's a beautiful little story. There was a village that was separated by a river in the middle. And on the other side of the river, there was a small island. A little girl used to live on that island. She was the daughter of fishermen, and she was always chanting, singing the glories of Mother Divine. A Pandit, a very learned scholar in the village, got to know about that girl. He visited her, especially took a boat across, and found that she was chanting it all incorrectly. He was appalled. He said to the girl, "This is not how you chant a stotra, young lady. I will teach you exactly how to speak and chant in Sanskrit so you may please God. Otherwise," he said, "nothing will happen. You won't gain any supernatural powers. You won't learn anything great. Nothing new will happen." The little girl was frightened, and she said, "Yes, indeed, sir, you're the learned person. Please tell me how exactly I should be singing." And he taught her subtle nuances of the Sanskrit language and how to go about chanting stotras. And it was evening. It was time for him to leave. He took the boat, and when he crossed the other side, when he got to the bank where his village was, the little girl just approached him, and she said, "Excuse me, sir, I forgot one particular chant. Can you please clarify this point here?" He said, "Sure, I will. But hang on a minute. How did you come here?" he said. "There was only one boat, and I took that boat. So how did you manage to cross the river?" "Oh, that. I was just chanting the holy names and just ran because I wanted to call out to God correctly. So I just ran, and somehow, call it a miracle or faith, I did not drown. But I want to do it correctly so God is pleased with me." He said, "My daughter, it is me who has to learn from you, not the other way around. You don't need to know the correct pronunciation. When it comes to chanting a mantra, yes, you need to know the correct pronunciation, absolutely. But when it comes to just singing the glories of God, then what matters a lot more is your feeling, your devotion. Because I feel there is only two ways to really experience God. One, you experience God in deep silence. Or two, you experience God in deep love. You tell me, what is the language of silence? What is the language of love? And that is the language you need to speak to get in touch with the divine energy that is deep inside you. Second question by Ajinkya. Are you planning to write a book on the life of Lord Shiva? The way you described him in Kundalini Sadhana and Million Thoughts book just blew me away. Well, I have not thought about it. If I have a message to share, then surely I won't mind writing something. I do that for a living. But it's to answer your question, not at the moment. Third question is by Abhijit. Is theory of evolution complete truth? I really feel deep down that there is something missing, since scriptures tell us Rama lived thousands of years before actual intelligent civilization, and school books tell us that civilization began just recently. You know, civilizations come and civilizations go. They appear, they live, they thrive, and then they start to deteriorate, then they perish. And then new civilizations make way. The current theory of evolution, if we were to put the religious scriptures aside of many religions, I don't think it is that planet is just a few thousand years old. I have reasons to believe that science has only just scratched the surface. And everything at the end of the day is really just a theory. If you really want to experience evolution, somewhere perhaps walking the path of meditation, you would experience that depth of consciousness which leads to its expansion of consciousness. In that expanded consciousness, you could be in a state where you're one with the universe. And that question of how old are we, where did the evolution start, where did it end, kind of start to disappear. Because you begin to realize one fundamental truth of this universe, this existence. It has always been there. As I wrote in my book on science of the mantras, the ancient science of mantras, to think that it got created and then got destroyed is a very materialistic thinking. It's not indicative of how evolution has really come about. I think anything more than that, if I say, would not be a true reflection of what you experience in deep silence or in deeper states of meditation. So the next question is by Piyush. What is intuition and why does it happen? You know, the earlier question was about evolution, and when we think of evolution, we think of time in a linear fashion. We think, okay, this is past, this is present, and this is future. But that's not how nature operates. Intuition is that crack in time where you somehow are looking at past, present, and the future at the same moment, all at the same time. For example, if I look at the sun that's just here, they say it takes 8 minutes for sunlight to reach Earth, which means the sun I'm looking at is 8 minutes old. Right now, I'm looking at past in the present moment. If the sun was to die right this moment, I would not know for 8 minutes. For 8 minutes, I would continue to see the day as bright as it is now. Similarly, planets that are billions of light years away, if they are destroyed today, I won't know for a long time, for maybe a few billions of years. So the main thing to remember is that intuition is when somehow Your conscious mind, your subconscious mind, and your superconscious mind are crossing paths. That moment you realize deep inside you there's a voice. Its intuition comes from inside. Don't mistake it for intelligent guess. I got just reminded of something. The difference between intelligent guess and intuition would be something like this. After a very difficult hike, there was a group of 4 people. One of them was a Russian, the other one was German, the third was a French, and the fourth was an Indian. So after that difficult hike, they reached on the top of the mountain, and the Russian said, "Oh, I'm feeling very thirsty. I must have my vodka." And the German said, "I'm thirsty as well. I must have my beer." And the French said, "Oh, I'm thirsty too. I must have wine." And the Indian said, "Oh, I'm feeling very thirsty as well. I must have diabetes." It just always made me laugh, this joke. So intuition is not an intelligent guess. And that's really the fundamental difference between guessing what's to come, or sometimes being attached to an outcome thinking this is what I'm expecting, or intuition, which is just actually a silent understanding of how things are going to unfold. And I'm not suggesting in for a moment that you actually start to see things happening like drawn out in front of you. It's more from the perspective of just a bell kind of thing, just a tiny little thing you hear and you know, oh, this is got to happen. That's what intuition is. The next question is by Suraj. Will we get a chance to read your commentary on the Bhagavad Gita? Once again, I would say, unless I have something different or new to say, why to write another book just for the sake of it? Hari Anant, Hari Katha Ananta. His glories are infinite. I'm just a tiny speck of, smaller than this grain of sand that this beach is full of. So only with divine inspiration, if I feel someday, if I feel I have something new, something different to say, I may, not otherwise. Sixth question is by Shelf Monk. Why do you make miracles happen only for certain people and not everybody? How to make ourselves ready for your miracle? Well, what kind of miracle do you want? I think to say that I make miracles happen for people may not be the right way to look at things. How much you can get from the person or the object or the energy you believe in, a lot of that is dependent on you, the person who has that faith. And it's not always just a matter of solving problems, you know. I read this beautiful story once, in fact, this woman, her husband was suffering from cancer and it was terminal. And he was very upset with everybody, including God and the whole world, that why me? Why is this happening to me? I've got young people, young children to look after. And then one day she took him to the priest. He agreed to attend a sermon. There he was moved and he cried. And when he went home, he had a hearty chat with his wife. She called the priest a week later. She said, Father, you know my husband who had cancer? He said, had. She said, yes, he passed away quietly. And I'm very glad that he was happy in the end. And the father said, The priest said, I'm sorry. She said, no, Father, the reason I called you, I know he wasn't cured, but he was healed. And that's all that matters in the end. Sometimes people in the name of miracles are looking for cure, not necessarily healing. Healing is something that always takes time. There is nothing called overnight healing. So how to make yourselves ready for my miracle? If you have that faith in me, well, then divine will work through it. Not much needs to be done. The next question is by Shubha. Is that pineal gland really the seat of soul? Or that its calcification, relationship with third eye awakening and spiritual growth, decalcification myth, and is it really Bindu of Sri Chakra? The question is pineal gland really the seat of soul? You know, it reminded me of something beautiful. I've got it here that I'll just share with you in a minute. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Aham Atma Gudake Sarbhuta Shay Stita. Aham Adeshcha Madhyanam Bhutanam Antevacho. O Kante, I am the soul that resides in every single living entity. And if the divine energy is the soul, then this whole universe is the seat of that soul. And here's a beautiful poem by Rabindranath Tagore called Who? I'll just come a bit forward, but if I come forward, I think it'll get a bit dark. So maybe I should just move back. I think this should be a little better. Or maybe I'll just walk towards you. So here's the poem. In the blue of the sky, in the green of the forest, whose is the hand that has painted the glow? When the winds were asleep in the womb of the ether, who was it roused them and bade them to blow? He's lost in the heart, in the cavern of nature. He's found in the brain where he builds up the thought. In the pattern and bloom of the flowers he is woven. In the luminous net of the stars he is caught. In the strength of a man, in the beauty of a woman, in the laugh of a boy, in the blush of a girl. The hand that sent Jupiter spinning through heaven spends all its cunning to fashion a curl. In the sweep of the worlds, in the surge of the ages, ineffable, mighty, majestic, and pure, beyond the last pinnacle, seized by the thinker, is throned in his seats that forever endure. It is he in the sun who is ageless and deathless, and into the midnight his shadow is thrown. When darkness was blind and engulfed within darkness, he was seated within it, immense and alone. How beautiful. I only read some of the stanzas, not the whole poem. Na tad bhasate suryo na shashanko na pavako yad gatva na nivartante tad dhamam paramam mama. Okante, says Krishna, that supreme soul, when a soul merges in the supreme soul, it is a realm where even the sun doesn't reach. That's not said so far. That is to say, it is beyond our perceptions. It is beyond what we consider our material world. So sorry if you saw half of the seminar in dark, but hey, something is better than nothing. Number 8 is by Aditya. His question is how to interpret dreams. In some cases, I'm getting messages from divine and seeing them in different forms. Some dreams seem like it was past life. Would be grateful for your comments on this. Dreams really can be just impressions of the subconscious mind, and I don't think we need to make such a big deal out of dreams. However, if your dream is repeated, if you get a repetitive dream frequently, occasionally, or many times, then that may be trying to tell you something. If it's a repetitive dream, then I would worry about it, or I would think about it, or try to interpret it. If yours is one of those dreams, you can shoot an email to contact.omswami and share your dream. Please be brief. If it's too long, we won't be able to reply. So once you send the email, then sit tight. Chances are nobody will respond. I'm just joking. And then wait a little, please, and you can send up a reminder. Send us a reminder, and then we'll follow up. Only and only if you see the same dream repeatedly, then I would like to help you in interpreting that dream. I'm not a specialist in that, but depending on the nature of the dream, I may have something to say. That reminds me of a little something out of Akbar and Birbal. Akbar was the king, as you know, and he always used to joke with Birbal. One day he said to Birbal, Birbal, last night I had a weird dream. I saw that we were walking and there were two kind of ditches in front of us. You fell in one and I fell in the other. And when I came out and you came out, guess what? Apparently, one was full of cow dung and the other one was full of honey. And my friend, Akbar said to Birbal, you fell in the one that was full of cow dung and I fell in the one that was full of honey. So I came out dripping of honey and you came out dripping, smeared in cow dung. Oh, Birbal said, what a strange coincidence, my lord. I also had the same dream in the morning. But I also saw what happened afterwards. Oh, really? Akbar said, you did? What happened afterwards? He said, we came out and we hugged each other. We were happy to be alive. And you started licking me, and I started licking you. Basically, what I'm trying to say is nothing. This was just for laughs. A lot of the times, people hold on to dreams they want to hold on to. Just because a dream has happened does not mean it means something. If it's repetitive, yes, interpret it. If it isn't, it may not mean anything. Everybody dreams every single night. And most people don't remember their dreams, and if you wake up in the middle of a dream, then you remember it, and the chances of remembering it are higher. So we have a tendency to pay attention to those dreams that we want to mean something. If you get a bad dream, a nightmare of some kind, it's very hard to forget. Or if you get a beautiful dream, then you just wake up with this great feeling. But in other words, if you want to interpret, not much can be done. Find out the nature of your dreams and maybe see a psychotherapist, maybe somebody who specializes in interpretation of dreams. Ninth question by Anushri. How does one know the path chosen by him or her is right? As I said once, it's like asking what is the best move in chess. There is no certain way of saying that. It all depends, where do you want to be? When you decide to walk a path, don't give up. Don't give up just because it's hard. Don't give up just because you don't seem to be getting what you thought you would when you begin walking the path. And that's something to keep in mind. Any path you walk, if it entails learning any kind of skill, just bear in mind that you would need to put in a few thousand hours before you are going to start having fun in that particular path. And other things perhaps I would say, something to keep in mind is you've got to see what are you willing to pay as the price of walking your path? The path that may be right for you may not be the right path in the context of your family, in the context of your commitments, in the context of your own life, and so on. So it depends what your commitments are and what all you have to cover or do to walk that path. And you know what? If you're really certain about walking a path, when you've walked a bit and you realize that this is exactly what you're meant to do, the whole universe, once you make up your mind, once you're certain that yes, this is what I want to do, the whole universe is going to work with you. Believe me on this one. Problem occurs when people problem occurs when people think of their dream, where they want to be, and mistake it for the path. And when they don't achieve what they're wanting to in a short frame of time, they start to become impatient. How would you know what is the right path for you? Really, no one can answer that question. But if your path makes you happy, gives you peace, and you're not hurting, harming, or injuring anyone in doing so, I think you're doing just all right. So rest, it all depends where you stand in your life. The last question is by Uma. The question is how to become pure and divine in spite of trying to motivate daily to be mindful, compassionate, and grateful. Every once in a while, negativity in the form of anger, greed, shame, jealousy pops in. How to get over this? Thank you. Feelings of negativity come in everybody's mind. There is nobody on this planet who does not feel negative at one point of time or the other, maybe on a daily basis, maybe on an hourly basis, and so on. The main thing to know and to keep in mind, when negativity comes knocking on your door, you've got to have a degree of mindfulness. If you are a little mindful, then you would find it easier to come out of it. But never try to battle with your feelings. Don't wage a war against your feelings saying, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this, I shouldn't be feeling jealous, I shouldn't be feeling negative. Just be calm, let it be, and remind yourself that you're only human, you're feeling these feelings, and maybe write down why you're feeling what you're feeling. I read somewhere, people who do big things in life in a negative way, for example, a big fraud or a big sin of some kind, although I don't believe in the concept of sin as such, but somebody who's done something drastically wrong, they live with a certain guilt. That guilt usually makes them aware of the wrong they've done. But most people don't do big things like that. Most people's acts are small, petty things that they do. And when you are engaged in something so petty, you don't feel as guilty. And because you don't feel as guilty, you kind of start to live with it. The trouble with this is, the moment you start to live with something, that's going to become your natural aspect of life. So if you want to change something, if you want to not have those little kids are playing, if you want to have if you don't want to have those feelings of negativity, jealousy, and guilt, and so on, it's really important to be aware and be mindful of your feelings and see that was a bit of fun for you. So, and see, do the reverse. Do something positive, do something happy, do something compassionate, do something for somebody. For a little while, forget about for a little while forget about yourself, and that is going to really help you in a big way. Sorry, I'll just fix this. Looks like I should just be sitting indoors and doing my Swaminars and not come out like this. Maybe that's what we'll do next. So that's the main thing to remember, that you are negative when your entire focus is on you. Just if you remember this mantra, you will find it easier to not be negative. Because when you are negative and down and jealous and so on, at that time your entire focus is on you. You're thinking about you, you're thinking of the whole world in your own context. What you missed out on, what didn't happen right to you, how things should have happened and so on. The moment you shift that focus, to something more positive, something more encompassing, then that is going to change. Then your consciousness in that moment grows, and when that grows, you no longer feel that somebody wronged you or something wrong happened to you. In other words, just be normal, be okay, be mindful. That's what's going to make a whole lot of difference. I read this little joke once. This person was dying, and he said to his wife, he said, "Honey, there's a little box under my bed. Can you please pull out that box?" So she pulls out the box, and he says, "Open it." She opens the box, and in the box she sees there are some empty beer bottles, 3 empty bottles of beer, and a couple of $100. She said, "What are these?" He said, "I am sorry, but in our 40 years of marriage, I just want to tell you, whenever I was unfaithful with you, I would usually go and have a bottle of beer, and I would save that bottle to remind me that I was unfaithful." She looked at the bottles and she said, "Oh, it's only 3. That's not too bad at all." She thought, could have been much worse. In 40 years, you only were unfaithful 3 times. Okay, I forgive you for that. But what about this couple of $100? She said. He said, "Oh, those." Every time a bottle was empty, and every time I had about 10 bottles, I would go and sell it for $1. And that's $200 collected from that. So there is nobody on this planet who doesn't falter. Not in terms of faithfulness or loyalty. I'm talking in terms of our emotions. Because you just never know when a wave may just come and wash everything ashore. You just don't know when a tide may come. It doesn't always on the full moon day. Sometimes tides also come when the moon is waning. So just be mindful and write down your feelings. We have this journal as well in Black Lotus app, by the way, where after each meditation you can just maintain a journal of how you were feeling during your meditation. And we'll expand that feature. I hope this Swaminar was useful. I was hoping to do it for 30 minutes, but I think we've gone overboard. It's almost 37 minutes if I get it right. So I'll see you again next month. Thank you very much for being here, and I hope you enjoyed this Swaminar and all the beautiful questions you sent. I was deeply touched. I will endeavor to cover more of those new questions in my next Swaminar. Thank you very much. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om.